How to Create Your Vision. Hi, everybody. It's Diane here at Someone Gets Me, and I have a great guest for us today. Craig Bartock is here with us from San Francisco, California. He is a longtime veteran and enrollee in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. As a musician, songwriter, producer, all kinds of areas in the music business. And you all know I always talk about it's time to create our vision. Well, this is a man who has created his vision, and he also helps other people create their vision. So grab your coffee, your tea, and sit back, because I have a feeling we are going to learn some magical things from Craig today. So welcome to the show, Craig.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great.
Good.
So, I'm so happy that you're here with us because I so often talk about vision and creativity. And the more I learn about you, the more I'm like, wow, it's like there's such a neat alignment that I know that this audience is going to so love this interview. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy life.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So I'd like to start off with a little bit of tell us how and when you started in music. Like you've been in it for a long time. Like,
I sure have.
How were you introduced to the love of music?
Well, honestly, boy, the love of music, if you were interviewing my mom, she would tell you that when I was like a really little kid, I had a box of records and I wouldn't leave my bedroom. I would sit and play records all day long. She would try to get me to go out and play. It's a sunny day, go play with the neighbors. All that, I would sit there and just play records. I'm talking about like 3 years old, 5 years old, and that type of thing. And I got my first guitar as a birthday present when I was 8. And I'm pretty much self-taught. And it's just, I don't know how it works, just whether it's just the way you're wired, your synapses or whatever, but music always just spoke to me, like the beauty of strings or just the way they're organized, music, and just the emotion of music is what spoke to me. It's never been the precision of music. It's just amazing how media and a song can just make you feel just a certain way, or how a song, you can have one song and you can play it for 10 different people and say, oh, I identify with that song. That song's about me. Mm-hmm. But they see what they want to see in a song, and there's no greater gift for a songwriter or an artist to have somebody say that to you, because it's great, because you put a song out there and it's like this is what I'm feeling, and it's amazing to think that somebody can take that and interpret it and put it into their own life and fit it into their world. I mean, there's no better compliment.
No, there is no better compliment. And I think of sometimes the songs that I've heard over the years where I'm like, I could have written that. It's like it was me speaking it. And that resonance is, to me, it's that universal energy that's in all of us connecting. And there's a magic in that.
There really, really is. And so, I mean, basically, to carry on, I mean, I taught myself how to play guitar, started my first bands when I was like 12 years old. I was in like a talent show in 6th grade. And then in 7th grade and 8th grade, I started like literally, I had a band together and we had a manager and I was making money. And by the time I was in my mid to late teens, I was living in San Diego and probably in one of the most popular bands to play dances. That's back in the days when they used to have dances. Mm-hmm. They didn't have DJs, and then you could actually stand next to somebody and not socially distance.
Right.
So, with the exception of a Mormon dance. I'm sorry, I just had to go there. So, and I was always writing songs, and I got my first publishing deal when I was about 19, and my first record deal when I was about 20. And, I decided that I really enjoyed producing and working with other people, which led me to a long career of producing and songwriting, where I developed a lot of young artists, like the people like Brie Larson, who went on to win the Academy Award. She was like somebody mm-hmm. that I had written for, and when she was a teenager, and Reeve Carney and Rainn Wilson, and just lots and lots of people. and I was also working with a number of very big artists at the time. I was on like Madonna, Simply Red, Brandy, Seal, a lot of like R&B stuff, and also I was developing artists and getting them record deals. We're talking about the '90s here, so I had a manager I was working with, and he was a very big manager. He managed a lot of major acts, so he put me together with like people like Nikki Sixx, and Nikki and I were songwriting partners for a while. And I had written with Debbie Harry, and I did a single with her on one of Blondie's albums. Mm-hmm. And then they thought it would be a really good fit if I would work with Heart. Heart was going back into the studio and doing their first studio album in 13 years. They'd kind of taken a hiatus. Mm-hmm. And they kind of wanted somebody just to bounce ideas off of initially. So Nancy Wilson came to my studio at the time when I was living in LA. And, we just hit it off. I mean, it was just one of those things where she just felt like a sister to me. Wow. We sat and we talked for like 3 hours, and we ended up writing like 3 songs, 2 that ended up on the album that I produced with them. And, and then I met Ann, and of course that was just as magical. And then I came in as a songwriter, producer guy, and ended up being the lead guitar player in Heart for all these years, because it was one of those things where I played so many of the guitars on the album that we did together. They just thought it would be like a good fit. So they kind of like sheepishly asked me if I would like to be their guitar player. And I'm like, I had been in the studio for 20 years, right. Producing and writing and doing all these things. So it was a big decision, but it was also at the time when the music business was kind of like going through some major changes. That's about the time when Napster was around and people were downloading. And the music business was basically kind of like on life support. And I could see the direction it was going. And I loved Ann and Nancy, and I still do. And I love the people. So it was really the combination of seeing the music business sort of shift over from getting record deals and developing artists and producing them to actually being a part of a working entity that's been around for many, many years. And like I said, I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't have had the connection with Ann and Nancy and the crew and everybody. They're just the most wonderful people on the planet. So and the fact that we're not touring this year, I miss them dearly, because they're all very, very good friends and wonderful people.
So when you came out of the studio and onto the stage, after all of that, was that an easy transition or difficult? What was when you look back at that transition, how was that for you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I had, all through my teens, I had played every type of dance, every type of bar, every type of concert, every type of situation you could think of. And then there was this huge period where I didn't do it. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to concentrate on being in the studio, because I had been in the studio since I was a teenager. I had access to a recording studio all these years. And so when they said, do you want to be in Heart? I didn't have the equipment. I didn't have the wardrobe. I didn't have the mindset. I had never stepped foot on a tour bus before, all this. So it was a steep learning curve. Yes. And just to learn the logistics of what it's like to be on the road. Being on stage and playing Barracuda and Magic Man and Crazy on You was not a problem at all. I mean, I didn't feel, actually my very first show with them was huge. I mean, we flew to Nashville and we did a TV show called Crossroads, which is, there's a country and Western artist and a rock band, and then they combine songs and work together, and we did it with Winona. And so it was Winona and Heart. And, and it was in a stadium with 10 cameras. And that was my introduction to my very first show with Heart. I mean, it's like, talk about being like, thrown into the fire.
Right.
And I found that I wasn't nervous at all. It didn't feel a whole lot different than my high school days. But the hardest part was really just learning how to survive on the road, how to take care of yourself, how to get enough sleep, how to find good food when you're in certain parts of the country, that, so that you stay healthy, and you stay focused. And it's a very different world than when you're at home. So I always say that the hardest part is the takeoff and the landing. It's like going on the road is really difficult because you're so used to being home and your routine at home. And then you go on the road and it's like you're a different person. The world is different. You have to think differently. You have a whole different set of problems. And then, it's fine. You adjust real quickly and then you're that way. And then when you come home, there's a whole different other mentality and a whole different shift. And that's really the hardest part.
So what did you do to help yourself through those transitions? Do you meditate or work out, or how did you do that? Because I've heard that a lot, and I've been on the road with some of the people that I've worked with. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that was why I was on the road, was to help support them and staying healthy and having the right food and do those kinds of things. So what did you do to make it and stay successful and healthy?
Well, I think I'm lucky because I went in with the right sort of mental attitude in my life. It's one thing if you're doing this in your 20s, and you're still going through certain things and you're still experimenting. But
Right.
by the time I had gotten on the road, I was stable. I felt good about myself. I already had become a vegetarian, and I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I've never really taken drugs, so it was easy for me. And everybody else in the band, everybody was really focused on the closeness of the band. It wasn't like wild parties, or it wasn't like let's go out and get drunk. And so it was, everybody kind of had that mindset. And so it made it very easy for me because I've never been one of like a follower. I'd never been the type of person to feel peer pressure. So I just, days off, let's go find some good food. I'm going into my bunk in the bus early to get a good night's sleep because I know that, we're not going to get to the hotel room until 6 a.m. So, it's time and emotional management is what it comes down to.
Yes, emotion management is a big one, because coming off stage, your adrenaline's really high. Mm-hmm. And so then it's, how do I wind down and take care of myself? Because maybe you're leaving right away or leaving very shortly after the show or whatever. Yeah. And so there's always those scheduling interesting events, I guess I could say.
Well, I'll tell you a funny little, people I've been interviewed many times, and so I've told a lot of the same stories about Heart, but you just reminded me that I will say something that I've never mentioned before. And the thing about Heart, you got to remember that, obviously Ann and Nancy are veterans and, yes, and consummate professionals and wonderful people. But the funny thing about Heart is that you would think that, you see movies or you see concerts and you see this big wind up to a show, mm-hmm, and then you see them get off the stage and, and you see like somebody wrap a towel around somebody's neck because they're sweating, all these cliches. Mm-hmm. Here's the way it works with Heart. We are as calm as can possibly be. We're literally before we walk on stage, we're joking with each other. We're as calm as can possibly be. We step on the stage and it's like a Ferrari. It's boom, you're going 1,000 miles an hour. And the second we get off the stage, we just walk back to our dressing rooms and we're just as calm as can be. The only time we talk about the show is if somebody happened to make a mistake, and we sit there and we have a good laugh over it. But, so it's the ramping up and ramping down with Heart is kind of, it's like we're all such veterans. We just like, it's like, okay, we know we're going to work 90 minutes, so we just give it all when we're on stage, and we know how to turn it off and turn it on a dime, and it's genuine and it's sincere when we're on stage. But when we're off stage, we treat our time like this is, like my house, for example. I have no heart. You would never know that I had spent, my entire life in the music business. There's no, I don't have any of my gold records hung up on the wall. I have no pictures of me with famous people, nothing like that. To me, my home is a place where I forget about all of that. And it's a sanctuary, and I don't need to be reminded of what my passion has been for my entire life, because it's up here. It doesn't need to be out here on display.
Right. Yes. There's nothing better than that memory and the energy within us from all of the things that are our passion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with that. So I have a question that's kind of like a personal curiosity, because I work with so many musicians professionally, and I have a lot of friends. My mom was a concert pianist, and she was the one who taught me. I used to go to bed with her playing classical music on our Mason and Hamlin ivory keyed piano, nice. It was beautiful, and it was just great. And so she would always say that she thinks in song, and that no matter what she was doing, it was really, there was a melody with it, or there was some kind of music with it. Is that true for you too?
It is. And it's funny because I try to look at it logically. Like either I am, either a unknown melody is going through my head, or some obscure song that I haven't heard in years. And I try to play this little game with myself and think, what did I just see on TV? Or what did somebody say? Or what did I dream that made this song, this crazy song from like the 60s or the 70s, or a song that from some movie that I haven't thought of in 15 years? What made this song just implant itself into my brain? So, and sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't, but there's always a musical, like it's like being in an elevator with music. It's kind of like that type of thing, but at least I get to pick what I'm listening to.
Right. And it's not traditional elevator music all the time.
No, it isn't. Thank God.
Right. Exactly. But okay. So I was curious about that, because when I wake up every morning, because I used to play piano for a while and things like that. And there's probably in my genes, but my mom had a belief that there's no way a child of a musician would want to learn music. Like, so she kind of poo-pooed it, but I wake up with songs in my head all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I find myself kind of humming them and singing them while I walk my dog first thing in the morning. And then I come back and I do a live show about whatever intuition I got that day. And normally it's related to one of the songs that just pops in my head when I wake up. And I play a similar game, like, where did that come from? Did I dream something? And did I see something? Or maybe I just really love the music because I can feel the energy of it. And so I'm always curious when I speak with somebody like you, that music has been your whole world, like since you were a toddler.
Right.
It's in your DNA. It's in your essence. It's not just, oh, I think I'm going to do this for a job. That's not it.
No, the job chooses you.
Yes, totally.
Does.
It totally does. It totally is. So you are a vegan and your energy is very clean, and it's obvious talking to you. And so what kinds of things do you do to help yourself manage all of the stuff coming at you? Because you're known and you're with a band of known, and there's people and there's the audience and there's just stuff and people emailing you probably and all of that. How do you manage the energy of people wanting things and it may not be bad. I'm not saying that it's a bad or negative thing, but you're in the limelight. And so how do you handle that?
Well, I think it's real important to give back to people, and I'd like to try to help people, and we can get into how I'm currently doing that in a little bit. So when people reach out to me, I enjoy answering questions about music, and about if it's a way to help somebody get to the next step. Um, I avoid anything personal because I feel that that's my personal life is my personal life, and that's something that I hold very dear to me. That's it. Basically, it reinstates what I was saying a minute ago about not having a bunch of, like, heart or past achievements laying around my house. To me, this is like my private life, and then this. But I honestly enjoy talking and helping with people. I think one of the greatest things about touring is you get to go to cities and towns that you would never go to, and I literally go out of my way to talk to the security person who's has to sit for 12 hours in front of our dressing room door. I see if they need water or if they need something, and to me, hearing their story is something that I would never in a million years get to do otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is important. I mean, it's not about us. It's about other people, and bringing those things into your life, the things that make sense, and to see that we're diverse, and there's a lot of thoughts, and there's a lot of people out there, and I think, to get back to your question, I think the hardest thing is more what's going on in the world right now, as opposed to like getting bombarded by heart and fans and questions and that type of thing. I mean, I think the harder thing for all of us to manage is 2020 is a tough year, and so I think that's probably what more people are facing than the actual logistics of their job. Like currently there is no, heart. We had stuff planned for this year, some really great stuff planned, and about the time February, March rolled around, I could see the writing on the wall that it probably wasn't going to happen, and that makes me sad for the fact that I don't get to see my wonderful friends that I work with, Ann and Nancy, their significant others, just everything, and get out and talk to these, to people from small towns and cities and places that I never would have had a chance to.
Right. I love doing that. I love talking to the diverse people in all of the places, like you said, where I never would otherwise have gone. I do a lot of speaking. And so I always try to pick places to speak where I've never been,
Yeah.
so I can meet different people. It's so exciting. How are you staying connected to people? How are you fulfilling that part of you? Because connection is important to you. How are you fulfilling it during this time when, we're all pretty much isolated?
Well, it's not easy. I've been doing it through, largely through my new venture, which we can start talking about, which is, for years I thought about ways to give back, because you know, I'm self-taught. So all of these things, songwriting, producing, guitar playing, playing piano, arranging, recording, engineering, all these things I taught myself. And for years I thought, how can I really give back? I actually explored, like, doing like adjunct teaching here at colleges in the Bay Area and in Marin County and Sonoma County, and just because I wanted to help inspire people to do what I've been able to do, and so the out of this crazy COVID thing that we're going through, it sort of forced my hand to do something that I was thinking about for years, and that's doing online mentoring, and that's my connection to people, because I thought, I looked long and hard at what people is available to creative people online, and oftentimes it's learn how to play guitar, learn how to do this, learn how to do that, and I thought, nobody is teaching people musicality, and really what that means is that it's just taking whatever spark somebody has and trying to develop it. If somebody has had that guitar sitting in their closet for 10 years and never learned how to play it because they didn't really enjoy it or they took guitar lessons, I will show them how to play it because I'll ask them what their favorite songs are, and I'll say, let's learn how to play your favorite songs. It's not about scales. It's not about like precision. This is about making you feel empowered by and enjoying picking up that guitar. So then the next step is people that know how to play guitar. They all thought, maybe I want to write a song, but I don't know how to make that logical jump. So I show people how to write a song. I explain to them how simple it is, and I help them write songs. And then if the next step is, I've got songs, I want to record. Well, do you have a MacBook? Do you have an iPad? You've got GarageBand on it. I'll show you how to record your song. And then if people have their songs recorded, how do I make it sound like the songs that I love that I've grown up with, that are on the radio? Why don't my songs sound like that? Well, it's all guiding people in the right direction, and it's all about being honest with yourself and being positive. That's what I like to bring out in people, because music should not be about precision. It shouldn't be about math. It shouldn't be about scales. It shouldn't be about you have to devote 45 minutes to practicing da 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 da. No, that's not what it's about. That's what it's about. What kind of music inspires you, or what kind of lyrics make you feel something? Let's find a way to bring that out in you. And that's the idea of musicality. So it's the totality of music that I try to help people, because I've been doing this my whole life. I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was literally like a kid, since I was 8 years old. Right. And I've been producing people in the studio and writing since I was a teenager. So, and then in the 90s, professionally taking young artists and people and looking at them and seeing people and saying, and instantly seeing what their talent is, what their strong point is, and what they need guidance to get them to the next step. And I got very, very good at just seeing people and saying, good voice, lyrics could be better, or melody could be better, or if we just try to do this with the chorus of the song, or we try to do this, it'll make the song so much better. But do it in a positive way, not in an authoritative way, but in a way that it gives them the power to do it, as opposed to me saying, this is what you need to do. This is how the professionals do it. That's not it. It's like, well, what do you want? And gently guiding them into coming into like really having a full musicality experience in their life. And there's no better time to do it than now, because a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and we have to reinvent ourselves. A lot of people are really rethinking things this year and really reinventing themselves. And I personally think that music, if music spoke to you in any way in your life, it can be the best form of therapy, because as we were saying before we started rolling, I was saying that you can say things in a song that you can't say face to face with another person. Right. So you have a chance to sit down and just think about the fact that you're sitting in front of a chalkboard, and it's an empty slate, and you can write anything you want to write on it, and you can create anything you want to create. And that's the way to look at it. It's like the sky is the limit when it comes to that. And there's no better therapy than trying to get out your inner thoughts that you may not necessarily be able to express, or you're maybe you just can't express it to your significant other or your parents or your neighbors or
Right.
your kids,
Or
and that's
society.
yeah, or yeah, exactly. So, but guess what? You can do it in a song,
Yep.
and people will recognize different things in songs. You can play one song for 20 different people, and you're going to
Right.
get 20 different interpretations of that song, and they're going to find a way to fit into their world. And there's nothing better than that. So that's my connection to people right now is really trying to help as many people as I can. And I have a website. It's called yourmusicality.com, all one word, yourmusicality.com. And it's just, there's no hyphen, just that. And people can reach me through that, or I suggest they can reach me through Facebook. Um, Craig Bartock, it's easy to find. And I don't think there's any other Craig Bartocks on Facebook. So I think I'm good.
I think you're good. And well, I'm
Yeah.
going to put the links to your Facebook, LinkedIn, and your musicality in the show notes for the show
Oh,
so
perfect.
that everybody can just go there and click there and find you. And
Right.
the thing that really impresses me about what you're doing, because I perused the entire website and I'm listening to you, and it's one thing that I really find unique and very powerful. And that is the whole mentoring idea, that you're just not being like this music coach person and telling them how it needs to be, but
Yeah.
it's holding that safe space for somebody to bring their authentic, real feeling, energy, creativity, whatever it is that's burning in them out in a way through their music, wherever they are in their development. And
Right.
that's a whole different thing than teaching somebody, the beginner of this is how you play a guitar. And
Right.
it's great value to be connected because you're teaching people to be connected to themselves. And
Right.
I think that's so necessary, and music is the perfect bridge for it,
It's true, and
you know?
it's you're exactly right, and it kind of I never really thought about this before, but it's like when people have problems,
Mhm.
they 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 go to their friends, and oftentimes that's not the best solution. Sometimes you're better to go to a therapist, because you go to a therapist because they give you they give you realistic, honest opinions, and they don't have a vested interest. They're not going to say something that is potentially hurtful or damaging inadvertently.
Right.
And mentoring music is the same way. I mean, really, it's like people can come to me with their musical ideas, and I'm not going to critique them like a friend or a partner would. I'm going to look at it kind of completely different. I'm going to look at it like, what are the possibilities for this? Where can we go from here? And that's a very, very big difference. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's really what mentoring is about. It's
Yes.
it's taking people, and it's the psychology of saying, and getting people to realize that you know open up open up inside, and say what you want to say. If it's 2020 and we're all going through a lot of stuff, if you don't have anything to say right now, then you should look inside, because we all are feeling anxiety, we're all feeling stress, we're all feeling some of the things we've never felt before in our lifetime. So if you're musically inclined, get it out. Get it out of get it out there and express yourself. That's very, very good therapy.
And getting it out and expressing yourself and not being in, like you said earlier, in that judgment place about it. Just get it out and be
Yeah,
authentic and real. And then however you want to develop it or not, that goes with it if you want it to, but it's still
right.
connecting to ourselves and bringing it out into the world, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I often thought you're reminding me this one thing I've always thought about, and I think I might have to talk to you about this off air. I had this idea once of working with somebody to have them hear my vision and help me create like the song that's played when I come on and off stage when I go to speak. You know,
Uh-huh.
like my kind of theme song that's just follows me around in all the work that I do. And I'm like,
Right.
but that takes somebody who's more of a mentor person, because I kind of have an idea, but it would
Hmm.
take extracting some of that emotion because
Sure.
I'm not a musician, but
And just
I
a
love the
good
music.
and just a good knowledge of music. I mean, like Ann Wilson made a comment. I mean, uh, years ago in an interview that she said there's like almost nobody she's ever met that is more of a musical encyclopedia than I am. I would say like do not play a musical trivia game with me. I mean, it's like I have this weird stupid human trick, to quote a David Letterman, where it's like I usually don't tell people about it, but I'm going to tell everybody listening to the podcast. For some reason, if there's a song that I've from our past, from the '60s, '50s, '70s, '80s, whatever that I've heard, oftentimes I can just sit at the guitar and play it. So it's like I'm really good at get-togethers. If somebody hands me a guitar and says, "Oh, Happy Together by the Turtles," no problem. I've never played it before, but I can play it, and we can sing along, and we can all sing together in the chorus. So so I'm not saying I'm having a
Oh,
barbecue anytime soon. So please don't email me your songs. But yeah, I that's just it's just understanding music. Music really ultimately people think that music may be this far off nebulous type of thing, but music is in a lot of ways it's a language, and it's a language that people can learn, and once you kind of understand, like I tell people about songwriting, it's like I say that it's not difficult once you understand the language, and it's not hard to understand that language. It's just that people, they go to a foreign country and they don't understand anything, but if they're there long enough, they start to pick up phrases, and they start to see commonalities, and they start to see these things. And
mhm.
that's the way music is. It's like just having somebody to say, if you ever noticed that every song from 1955 all the way through now, almost every song has this in common, or hit songs, or every song you just named to me has this in common. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, I never noticed that." And I can't tell you how many times I've taught people, like when they're playing guitar,
Mhm.
like I'll show them four chords,
Right.
and they'll say, "I really want to play this song." And I'll show them the four chords, and I'll say, "By the way, did you know that you're also playing this song, and you're playing this song, and and if you turn these two chords around and speed it up, it's really this song." And their mind is always blown, because they thought it was some crazy thing, and it isn't. It's in here. It's emotion.
Oh, I love it. So emotion's the fuel of it all, you know?
It
It's
really is.
it's really amazing. It's amazing. So is there any instrument that you have not played yet that you would want to learn?
Well, I had a violin and a cello when I was younger, and to me, those are two of the most probably expressive instruments. They're very much like a voice, and
Mhm.
uh, I always really wanted to play the cello and violin, but fortunately, because of technology, now I can do that in my studio with virtual instruments. They've got it down to the point now where I can sit at a keyboard and I can actually be playing a violin without the years of practice. And it's pretty fulfilling to be able to. I mean, I write a lot of symphonic music too, and
Mhm.
that's I don't usually share it, but it's the thing that it's my way of kind of getting my emotions out.
Mhm.
I have three
Right.
solo CDs that I did, and at this time I'm really focusing on just classical music. I love orchestrations. I love string
Me
arrangements. There's
too.
nothing more. There's nothing sadder, or there's nothing more melancholy, or there's nothing more moving than hearing a good string section or a good passage with strings. And it's just like that spoke to me ever since I was a little kid. And now through the miracle of technology, I can do it in my studio. I can sit here and I can create a full orchestra, and it can be convincing. And it's convincing enough for me to walk away and go, okay, I feel like I just had a big meal. I feel full. I feel satisfied.
Oh, well, that is great. There is nothing more satisfying than full orchestra playing. And that's cool that the technology lets you create that really neat experience. And you
Yeah.
reminded me, my mother used to always say, I think it's a Stravinsky quote, but she never said that, but I think I've seen it since, that the beauty of music is the space between the notes.
Absolutely.
And ever since I was little, that was the message. And I've always held that, and I really have appreciation for the space between the strings, the space between the notes, and the space of it all, and the timing and the pace, and there is an elegance and a beauty about it, no matter what kind of music it is, I think.
You're
So
right.
and
Absolutely.
I just, that memory just popped in my head, of my mom talking to me about that, and I really revel in that.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's listening to you right now, obviously, if you're really digging what Craig is saying, what I think you should do is just go on yourmusicality.com, and you can go on there and sign up to have a meeting with him and start working with him and get that creative part out of you. That's pretty obvious. So if you're listening to him right now and you've heard something that's really amazing, you can keep rewinding and listen again, or reach out to him, because he's a giving human being who really wants to support you to really bring your vision forward, right? Through music, which I think
Absolutely.
is really, really powerful. And so I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes so that they can find where to buy your CDs, go to your Musicality, and hunt you down in all the cool ways that we can from all over the world. But I have a couple more questions that are a little bit more personal related,
Sure.
that I like to kind of wrap things up with a little bit, so that people understand that, and that they've already got the feeling from you that you're this really giving, generous spirit. But I'd love to know, in all of your travels and your exciting life, what was the most memorable food that you've ever eaten?
Oh boy, the most memorable food. You know, boy, I would say probably New Orleans. Going to New Orleans and I mean, I've had some great meals in my day. There's a one of the best restaurants in the world. I don't know if it's still here, but it was in Napa, called the French Laundry. It was always like one of the top four in the world. And I ate there one time, and it was pretty amazing. But for me, it's just probably my most amazing food is going to New Orleans, going to my favorite place, getting crawfish etouffee, going to Cafe Du Monde and getting the beignets and the chicory coffee. To me, there is nothing better. It's like when I see New Orleans on the tour, it's like it happens to be Ann Wilson's favorite city. So oftentimes we have days off there. And it's like, yes, it's like I get to visit all my favorite restaurants. There's a restaurant called Giacomo's. There's two of them. Then they have amazing food there as well. And but yeah, boy, I'll tell you, I've had some great food.
You're
Great
making
food.
my mouth water.
I know. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean,
No.
you go down south and you can't beat. I mean, like, as soon as I see stuff like fried okra and fried green tomatoes and that type of thing, it's like, it's not readily available in all parts of the country. But when I see that, it's like, I know that I can get sweet tea, and when you go into a restaurant and they say, well, do you want like regular tea or sweet tea? It's like, and it's funny because sometimes, I'm on the tour bus and we go from the middle of America to the South. And so I forget where I am. And then it's like, I was just somewhere in the Midwest, and now I wake up and I'm in Atlanta and I'm at a restaurant and they ask me if I want sweet tea. And I'm like, yes, I'm in the South. Yeah, I remember where I am now. Just the fact that, in catering, they've got regular tea and sweet tea. It's
Right.
like, this is great. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, I live in Florida. And so for years when I was in college and I went to school a little closer, I would drive. My birthday's near Thanksgiving, and I would leave at night, drive all night so that I could be sitting in Cafe du Monde eating beignets, having cafe au lait as the sun rose. And I'm like, and crawfish étouffée is one of my favorite Cajun dishes ever. So you're
Oh,
talking and my mouth is like watering, like,
oh yeah,
oh,
you can't go wrong. You
no, you
really
can't.
can't go wrong.
You
Boy, oh
can't at
boy.
all. Oh, yes. Now you got me going. And one last question.
Sure.
Um, if there was going to be a billboard that you were going to put up that the whole world would see with Craig's message on it, what would you want the world to see now?
The message would be talk to each other.
Good one.
You know, this is the thing I was going to mention when I was saying that one of the greatest things about touring is getting, it's a job. So I'm getting out and I'm seeing people from different walks of life in different parts of the country. And, we're so divided right now. And I think that a lot of people, you've got the far left, you've got the far right, and you've got the middle. And I think a lot of people are much more in the middle than are in the extremes. But what's happening now is this middle. If you're leaning one way, you look at the extreme on the left and you blame them. If you're in the middle on this side, you blame the extreme right, and there's a lot of us that are just here. And if we just talk to each other and realize that talking to each other of people with different backgrounds and races and religions empowers you. It teaches you that we have things in common much more than we do that tear us apart. And right now, we really need to figure out a way to do that. We really need to stop pointing fingers, and we just need to talk to each other.
Yes. Amen. I agree totally. And so you might have just answered the question I was going to ask last, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case. And
Okay.
that is, we've covered a lot of ground, and I really am enjoying this conversation, and you're inspiring
Thank you.
me. Is there anything on your heart that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you about, or that's coming to mind, so that when we're all finished, you feel full and complete?
I think this was a really good interview. I got to say, it's like it's nice to do something like this and not focus so much on my past with all the artists I've worked with and touring with Heart and everything. I mean, most people really want to get to what's it like being on stage, what's it like playing Barracuda, what's it like, what are Ann and Nancy really like, all that stuff. And this is great because ultimately, when we're together, we talk about feelings. We talk about how things feel. We talk about the state of the world. We talk about these things. So what we're doing right now is the reality. The other part is just the other part, touring, playing, that's just the fantasy. The reality of it is exactly all the things that we were talking about.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show and having this
Oh, it's
great
my
conversation with
pleasure.
me. I'm
My
so
pleasure.
inspired. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And thanks to everybody for listening. I appreciate it.
So you've been listening to Craig Bartock, and his information is all in the show notes for you. And I'm sure that you're as delighted as I am with what he has to share. So follow him on social media. Let him know you heard him here so he can see the far reach of his words. And so remember, everybody, to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star and you're here on purpose with a purpose. So go out there and let your light shine. Connect with other people in meaningful ways. And until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, be well.